All right, so moving on to the next segment, I'll be sharing my biggest disappointments this NFL season. So, to me, the NFL season has been great overall. There's really no complaints on my end. But there has been some huge disappointments this NFL season. So, these are my biggest NFL disappointments. Starting off with starting quarterbacks being injured this NFL season. So, starting quarterbacks being hurt in the National Football League, unfortunately, became normal as the NFL season started going on. We've seen a total of 7 teams lose their starting quarterbacks due to season-ending injuries this NFL season. And we're talking about guys that were difference makers at the quarterback position for their respective franchises. Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, out for the remaining of the season. Kirk Cousins, a difference maker for the Vikings, gone for the season. Aaron Rodgers, who was going to make a big-time splash for this young New York Jets roster, gone in a matter of 4 plays due to a torn Achilles in the first 4 snaps of his career with the New York Jets. Justin Herbert, a difference maker for the Los Angeles Chargers, gone. This year, this NFL offseason, the backup market will be treated like gold. If you're a backup quarterback, you're in line for a huge payday this NFL offseason, because the position of being a backup quarterback is going to mean more. It's going to mean more than it's ever meant, because we've seen a slate of starting quarterbacks go down left and right. Franchises having to lean on their second, third string guys. If you're the New York Jets, your 4th string guy at times. This has been a bad look for starting quarterbacks this year. And the backup quarterbacks are going to be treated like gold this NFL offseason. To see these guys go down like this, it was a real disappointment this NFL offseason. Next big disappointment is the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars, just a year ago, was a team that was in the wild card game facing off against the Los Angeles Chargers, and they overcame a 27-0 deficit to turn around, win that game, and have one of the biggest comebacks in NFL playoff history. Trevor Lawrence did that. Doug Peterson at the head coaching position did that. And if you guys remember, in the divisional round that year, they were just a possession away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round. They came up short and lost that game 27-20 in the divisional round. And I keep hearing that Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent, but I have yet to see why he is a generational talent. Is the man talented? Yes. Top 10? Maybe. But when you have 21 passing touchdowns and 14 interceptions, how could you be considered a generational talent? College football analysts. So the Jacksonville Jaguars were disappointing also because they were 8-3 this year, and they finished the season 9-8, missing the playoffs. And all they had to do was to win their season finale against a Tennessee Titans team that had 4 wins, 12 losses at the time. And all they had to do was beat them to win the AFC South and punch their ticket to the playoffs, and they couldn't do that. The Jacksonville Jaguars, from starting at 8-3 and collapsing, finished the season at 9-8. That's a huge, dramatic drop-off. And I don't know if this team is ready to compete with the top dogs in the AFC that will be there for a very long time. This team was an overall disappointment this year. Next disappointment, the Los Angeles Chargers downfall. Now, bright days are coming for the Los Angeles Chargers. They just got Jim Harbaugh. But, man, this season the Chargers were very disappointing on both sides of the ball. They had the franchise guy, Justin Herbert, who didn't play efficient enough to me all year long. And I understand he went through a lot of things. The finger injury at that. But he did not have an efficient season. Then you bring in Kellen Moore as your offensive coordinator. Someone that was a good, effective play caller for my Dallas Cowboys over the years, and was the reason why they had a top 5 offense year in and year out, is because of the man's play calling on the sidelines in Dallas. You bring him in, the offense doesn't live up anywhere close to the hype and the expectations that they thought they were getting offensively when they brought him in. And you look at the skill position players, Mike Williams, one hell of a wide receiver, but unfortunately tore his ACL early in the season. He was gone. Quentin Johnson, wide receiver from TCU. I don't know how the hell he was drafted over Zay Flowers in this NFL draft, because the man is not that good. The man already looks like a bust. His production was terrible this year. Austin Eckler, a man that was a touchdown machine over the last few years in the National Football League, came up short on a contract year. Only had 6 touchdowns. And they lost their head coach, Brandon Staley, which was a well-deserved fire. It came really, really late, and it should have been done a long time ago. They lost their general manager. But, yes, this Chargers team that was one of the most talented teams on paper came up short big time this NFL season. They were a huge disappointment. Then looking at Derek Carr. Derek Carr had a really disappointing year with the New Orleans Saints. Now, after Drew Brees retired from the New Orleans Saints, everybody kept talking about this Saints roster. And I get it. They have a loaded team still. They still got Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Demario Davis, who I do believe is one of the most underrated linebackers in the National Football League to this day. They still have Alvin Kamara in the backfield. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore still at corner. Honey Badger still at safety, even though he's starting to decline. I mean, he's still talented, but this team has so much talent. And I've been hearing, we're just a quarterback away from competing again in the NFC. Well, this was the year that you finally got a quarterback in Derek Carr, who a lot of people believe that he's a top 10, top 12 quarterback in this National Football League at best. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that Derek Carr is not a good quarterback in this league, but for a team that had so much talent and all you needed was a quarterback, I mean, I really think this season, how it played out, they would have produced the same amount of wins and losses with Jameis Winston at the quarterback position this year. Derek Carr was supposed to be a difference maker with the New Orleans Saints, and they went 9-8, and they missed the playoffs, and the worst division in football, that being the NFC South. To me, Derek Carr had a disappointing year with the New Orleans Saints, not ascending them to being one of the top teams in the NFC. Big disappointment to me. Then, this next team really, really was a disappointment. The Denver Broncos were a really disappointing team this NFL season. The Broncos were supposed to turn things around, getting a former Super Bowl quarterback in Russell Wilson, and getting a former Super Bowl head coach in Sean Payton. That was supposed to be a great marriage and never went anywhere, never escalated anywhere in Denver. The Broncos traded away a 2023 and a first round pick and a 2024 second round pick to trade for Sean Payton. They gave that to the Saints to get Sean Payton as their head coach and bring him to the sidelines of Denver. A guy who criticized Nathaniel Hackett for displaying one of the worst coaching jobs in NFL history. You basically have that same roster, and you mean to tell me you only generate 8 wins in your first year there? And you have the nerve to criticize Nathaniel Hackett for the coaching job that he did, and you go 8-9 this year and miss the playoffs in Denver? Sean Payton really pulled the plug on Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson, he still hasn't gotten back to playing at that elite level that we've seen in the Seattle days, but he looked 10 times better this year than what he did last year with the Broncos. And they pulled the plug. Sean Payton pulled the plug on Russell Wilson for the last 2 games due to his contract that would have owed him $37 million guaranteed in 2025 if he got hurt in this year. So the Broncos traded away several draft picks, a lot of draft capital to bring in Russell Wilson and Sean Payton for what it really only looks like a total of 16 games together, because I don't see Russell Wilson coming back to Denver next year. I think they're going to cut him. And I think they're just going to part ways. This was supposed to be a beautiful marriage between 2 beautiful couples that were really successful together. But obviously, the love, the chemistry did not mix together. And now they're on a head-on divorce. They filed their divorce papers sooner than anybody expected. The Denver Broncos have been disappointing this year. But listen, this last one, it might be harsh, but it's the truth. Bryce Young's rookie season was a disappointment. It's hard to judge Bryce Young's rookie season, but damn, Bryce Young could have produced more than what he did in his rookie season. As the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. And me and my co-host Rob Sarasulo say it all the time. C.J. Stroud should have been the number 1 pick to the Carolina Panthers. And we said this before the NFL Draft. And I guarantee you C.J. Stroud wouldn't have made the playoffs with the Panthers, but he would have ascended that team to way higher expectations than they had this year, than they had with Bryce Young. But man, Bryce Young went 2-14 as a starter in his rookie season, 11 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions, only having 2,877 passing yards. He got sacked 66 times this year. Now, obviously, the Panthers went through a lot, and it's obviously not all on him. But when you're the number 1 overall pick, you got to come up with better production than having 11 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions, not even reaching the 3,000-yard passing mark, going 2-14. Bryce Young. I hope he turns it around his sophomore season, or we're going to have a discussion if the man is truly a bust or not. He gets a pass this year for me because of the things that went on with the franchise. But those are my biggest NFL disappointments this NFL season.